Remember your first day of school? You meet new friends, everything's exciting. Then the teacher sits you next to that kid, the one who never pays attention, the one who copies your homework, the one who cheats off your tests. Now imagine, you study hard, you do everything right, but when the teacher catches you cheating, wait, what? They take away your test, call your parents, ruin your life. Meanwhile, that kid who actually cheated gets an A+, a trophy, a pat on the back. That happened in 2008 during the Great Economic Crisis, and the movie The Big Short explains just that. The cheater? The bankers. You, your parents, your neighbors, everyone who paid while they partied. They gambled with our money, lost it all, then made us clean up their mess while they kept their bonuses. You want to know how they did it? How they turned the whole world into their personal cheat sheet? Keep watching, because if they want to set a similar scam again, you'll see it. Okay, little buddy, let's start super simple. Imagine you want to buy a toy, but you don't have enough allowance money, so you ask your parents to lend you $10, and you promise to pay them back $1 every week for 10 weeks, plus maybe an extra dollar for their trouble. That's interest. Now replace the toy with a house and the parents with a bank. That's a mortgage. You borrow money to buy a house and you pay the bank back slowly every month for like 30 years. Here's where it gets juicy. Back in the day, banks were careful. They only gave mortgages to people who had good jobs, saved money, and could actually pay back. It was boring, safe, responsible. But then, dun dun dun, banks got greedy. Picture this. You're playing Jenga, but instead of removing blocks carefully, someone says, hey, what if we let anyone play? Even people who've never played before? Even people who are literally blindfolded? That's what banks started doing. They gave mortgages to people with no jobs, no savings, bad credit. They called these subprime mortgages. Subprime just means probably gonna fail. But wait, why would banks do something so dumb? Because they found a magic trick to make it someone else's problem. Here's the trick. They took thousands of these risky mortgages, good ones, bad ones, terrible ones, and stuffed them into a box. Then they wrapped that box in pretty paper and sold it to investors as a safe investment. They called it a CDO, collateralized debt obligation. Makes finger quotes. Fancy words for a box of mortgages. And the rating agencies, think of them as the taste testers of finance, looked at this box of garbage and said, drum roll, AAA, super safe, like government bonds. It was a box of garbage and they called it filet mignon. Now, most people were drinking the Kool-Aid. Houses only go up, real estate never fails. It was like everyone at school saying the cafeteria pizza is gourmet food. You just believe it because everyone else does. But a few weirdos looked at that pizza and said, this is cardboard with ketchup. Let me introduce you to the misfits who bet against the housing market. Michael Burry, a doctor with autism who read thousands of mortgage documents in his basement. He found that people with no income were being approved for $500,000 houses. He said, this is going to explode. Mark Baum, a guy who hated Wall Street so much that he made his job to expose their lies. He went to Florida and saw strippers owning 5 houses. 5 on a stripper salary. And Charlie, Jamie, and Ben, 2 kids and their mentor who found the CDO scam by literally reading the fine print that nobody else bothered to read. These guys all did the same thing. They went to big banks and said, I want to bet that these mortgage boxes will fail. It's called buying a credit default swap, insurance that pays out if the mortgages crash. You pay a little money every month, but if the housing market explodes, you get paid big. The bankers laughed at them. You're betting against houses? Houses never go down. Here, take our money, you idiots. Oh, those poor bankers. They had no idea. Remember our Jenga tower, the one built by blindfolded people? Well, in 2007, people started missing their mortgage payments. A few at first, then a lot. Why? Because those subprime borrowers never could afford the houses in the first place. The banks just pretended they could. And then, kaboom, the tower fell. Houses lost value. People owed more than their homes were worth. They walked away. Foreclosure signs popped up like weeds. The safe mortgage boxes, they were worthless. But here's the insane part. The banks didn't just lose their own money, they had sold these toxic boxes to pension funds, retirement accounts, your grandma's savings. And when everything crashed, the government used taxpayer money, your parents' money, to bail out the banks because they were too big to fail. The people who caused the crash got bonuses. The weirdos who warned everyone, they made billions. And regular people, they lost their homes, their jobs, their futures. One guy at Deutsche Bank made $900 million personally betting against the very garbage his bank was selling to customers, while those customers lost everything. Okay, so what does this mean for you? You're 5, or at least we're pretending you are. Here's your takeaway. 1, if everyone says something is safe, get suspicious. When the crowd is cheering, look for the exit. The best time to be careful is when nobody else is. 2, read the fine print. Those weirdos won because they actually read the contracts. Most people don't. Knowledge is literally money. 3, don't trust ratings blindly. Those AAA ratings were bought and paid for. Just because an expert says something doesn't make it true. Do your own thinking. 4, understand what you invest in. If you can't explain it to a 5-year-old, you don't understand it. Never put money into something you don't get. And 5, the house always wins until it doesn't. Wall Street will always try to sell you the next can't-lose thing. Crypto, meme stocks, whatever. Remember 2008. Remember that greed makes smart people do very stupid things. And hey, if you ever see strippers with 5 houses again, run. That's The Big Short explained so simply even a banker could understand it. If this blew your mind, smash that like button, subscribe for more Explained Like You're 5 videos, and drop a comment. What's the craziest financial scam you've heard about? Stay curious, stay skeptical, and remember, if something smells like garbage, it's probably a CDO. Peace.